Good evening, everyone. I'm Candy Ashdown, Chair of the Board, and I'd like to welcome you all to the regular meeting of the Board of Education for Tuesday, May the 26th, 2026. I'd like to start out by reminding everyone that this meeting will be live streamed. As per policy number 7, regular and special meetings of the board may be streamed live, archived, and accessed online. The board reserves, at its sole discretion via motion at any meeting, the right to not stream live or archive a meeting or a portion of a meeting. Further, the board reserves the right to edit any recorded portion of a meeting. I would like to call to order the regular meeting of the Langley Board of Education at 7:01 p.m. I would also like to first acknowledge that the Langley School District is located on the traditional, ancestral, and unceded territories of the Matsqui, Kwantlen, Keetsi, and Semiahmoo First Nations. We gather here tonight in an understanding of the importance of Yaayastul, Skeki eyes working together, and not Samat, let Samat, uniting ourselves with one mind, one heart, to ensure that we support and inspire all learners to reach their full potential. I'd like to first begin by introducing the Board of Trustees here this evening. On my far left is, wait 1 second while that siren goes by. On my far left is Trustee Joel Neufeld, and then Trustee Charlie Fox, and then Trustee Sarbrai. On my far right is Trustee Tony Ward, and then Trustee Holly Dickinson and Vice Chair Wilson. On my left, we have Secretary Treasurer Brian Isley, and then on my right, Superintendent Mel Gill. Also joining us this evening, we have Deputy Superintendent Woody Bradford, Assistant Superintendent Lisa Lynchbury, Assistant Superintendent Marcello Moino, Assistant Secretary Treasurer Shind Chand, Executive Assistant Christine Thorpe, Technical Support Specialist 3, Paul Baboa, Technical Support Specialist 3, Vincent Montefrio, Director of Learning Support Services, Linda Palustretti, District Principal of Early Learning and Inclusion, Charlene Redicott, DPAC President, Jennifer Piper, LPVPA President, Paul Trottle, LTA Vice President, Nancy Peterson. Oh, sorry, now you're President. Congratulations. Acting President. Congratulations, by the way. And LTA Vice President, Kimberly Miller. So I'd like to first start with an announcement with regards to National Accessibility Week. National Accessibility is recognized the week of May the 31st to June 6th, 2026. The week invites us to take action to advance a barrier-free country. Significant progress has been made to eliminate and prevent barriers, and by continuing to work together, we can build a truly accessible, inclusive, and equitable Canada. Our country is stronger when persons with disabilities can participate fully in all aspects of society. This year's theme is Building a Strong, Accessible Canada. The district's Accessibility Committee joins the National Accessibility Week with a focus on the valuable contributions and leadership of persons with disabilities. The work of our organization, spotlighting facilities and removing barriers and promoting the ongoing efforts to become a more accessible and disability inclusive Canada. The district values the strengths and contributions of all and will continue to work towards an inclusive and nurturing community. Next, I'd like to pass the mic over to Vice Chair Wilson to give a report from in-camera.
Great. At tonight's in-camera, we discussed personnel, property, and legal. Thank you.
Thank you. Trustees, you have the consent agenda, which was provided to you earlier. And could I please have a motion that the Board of Education adopts the consent agenda items as provided? Moved by Trustee Dickinson, seconded by Trustee Neufeld. All those in favor? Opposed? Carried unanimously. Thank you. All right. Next, we have a delegation from Risha Sapti. with regards to e-scooter safety. Welcome, Risha. Turn on your mic there.
Great. Thank you very much, Chair Ashton, School Board SD35. Thank you so much for having me today and for allowing me to speak to you this evening. I'm here as a concerned parent and a concerned citizen in our community with the e-scooters. So I'm hoping for a conversation about scooter safety awareness and hopefully shared responsibility. This approach, I'm hoping to be more of a proactive approach. As many of us have been hearing around with all the stories that we see on the news and other things that may not even make it to the news, this was about 3 weeks ago of 2 kids. They were 9 and 10 or 9 and 11, something like that, definitely under 16. From the research that I've done, there is an increase of about 32% in hospitalization in between 2023 to 2024. A recent article in Global News indicated that there is, according to the Canadian Pediatrics, there is about 61% increase in accidents related to e-scooter safety. The issue with data collected is the fact that this code related to e-scooter safety is not fully implemented, which does cause a limitation on the data collected. In BC, there's about 20% increase in these accidents between 2022 to 2024, in these injuries, my apologies. Langley is part of the conversation. We are part of a pilot program. So that was initiated in 2021 and it was renewed again in 2024. I believe, and it's my personal opinion, to say that there's a lot of challenges with this pilot. This pilot, in my opinion, is flawed. Basically what it says we are okay to ride scooters on the roads, or as long as you are part of the pilot. It does give a bit of a safety net to people participating on scooters on the roads. The challenges with this pilot is basically there is limited, or there has been limited public education. There is an unmatched infrastructure into towns and cities, specifically in Langley. Unclear rules that has been going around for basically public education specifically. There's major youth use, which is basically under the age of 16. And the length of this pilot, it's between 2024 to 2028. What I'm seeing with the scooters that we see on the roads, by the time this is done, we will be dealing with flying scooters on the roads, because these scooters are actually enhanced by parts that get purchased and added and increase the speed limits. So again, in my personal opinion, what's been happening is that these e-scooters have made it really, really, really good birthday gifts. The problem is the rules are not clear. The kids that are getting them are not really aware of the consequences of these machines. The rules are quite clear. I've been working with Langley RCMP, the community department. Thank you so much to Constable McNutt, and he has been very helpful with the team in Langley RCMP, providing me with a lot of data and information. They also have been working hand in hand with the township bylaws, trying to educate the public in different community parks. The rules are, again, very clear, not to us, I guess. Must be 16 or older. There's a fine of 109. More than one rider, 109 fine. Riding without helmets, it's illegal. Exceeding speeding limits, riding on the sidewalk, riding dangerously, etc. Now, again, these rules are clear in the Motor Vehicle Act. However, it has been presented to people in the pilot program, but the focus hasn't really been on under 16. It's been always on people that are riding over 16. These are the proper rules: age 16 and over, single rider, safety helmet, safe speed, lights and bells, and riding in a designated cycling lanes. These posters I have obtained from Langley RCMP. I have on my own added your logo and the township, and I'm hoping this will be a presentation that every government body in Langley will take it on and be able to distribute this information to educate the public. Where can these flyers go? They go in township notifications, public parks, schools, community events, screens, social media, and arenas, bike shops, and possibly bus stations and summer camps. Where can SD35 or what can SD35 do? In my opinion, there's a lot of room to work within our community. We have about 45 schools. 35 out of these 45 schools are most likely under 16. Middle school and elementary schools are usually under 16. Some high schools are, it could be 50-50. However, there's about basically only 5 to 10% of our schools that will not, these rules will not apply to. So public education prioritization to that, partnership with police officer, with the Langley RCMP and perhaps the township to provide much of this education to the community. Langley RCMP have showed interest in possibly attending schools through the school liaison. I've spoken to Corporal Jacob Chung, and he is very willing and ready to start going and to educate in schools and partner with us with SD35. They are ready to go. Empowering students, perhaps creating grade 7 initiatives or grade 12 initiatives to educate the younger generation, to their younger classmates. Participating in safety programs, helmet education, all the requirements related to bike safety. And communications. I do know there's some information that has gone out from School District 35 through newsletters. I may be the odd parent. I do open newsletters. I do not open them as a priority. They end up being open at some point. So I'm hoping that this type of information go more of a priority through the school district to show the importance of this message to parents. I am well aware of the amount of amazing work that you all do to create a safe community for our children. Now, the conversation started with my kids. They wanted it as a birthday gift. That was a no, and will still be a no. So we'll have to find another gift for them. Thank you so much for your time. And if you have any question, I'm here to answer. Thank you.
Thank you, Risha. I know you mentioned that you'd like it to be a conversation, but I just wanted to clarify that as per policy, trustees can ask for clarification, but we don't have a discussion here at the meeting. But so trustees, did anybody have any questions for clarification? Trustee Fox?
Yeah, if I could just, you indicated you've talked to the RCMP Constable McKnight.
And Corporal Jacob Chung.
Have they indicated any specific, you created a beautiful poster there.
I did not create it. I cannot take credit for it. What I
Okay.
did was I contacted the RCMP, requested that the information gets done in a legal matter. That way it's not from me, it's legally done by RCMP and it's their rules. So it's,
Have they got those posters available?
yes, I have them available for you as well. I got the clarification that that can be released to anyone that wants it.
How big are they?
I haven't printed them, so they're ready to be printed. You can print them.
Okay, that's good.
You can make them as big as you want. I mean, we need visual alerts.
Well, yeah, I'm just thinking if it's something that our senior management could prioritize.
For any conversation.
What?
Okay, did you have any more questions?
Nope.
Nope. Any other trustees? Trustee Ward?
Have you discussed with, oh, there you go. Or has the RCMP shown particular interest in certain locations? I'm thinking a few. Okay, of course, that's what I'm thinking. But have they reflected back to any kind of enforcement strategies that they're planning on doing?
They have been doing. Our work has started since March. The conversation, and Officer McNutt has been to every call as much as possible. There is 100% of the execute or the reasoning behind kids that are under 16 riding is the fact that parents didn't know that this is illegal. So what they've been doing is they've been confiscating these scooters and calling parents to pick up the kids. Once this and the campaign, they're going hard on the campaign, and hopefully eventually some of these the enforcement will be with tickets and stuff like that. Corporal Chung, he did mention that Surrey School District have banned it from their properties and helped dramatically. And I'm hoping the school district SD35 Langley would do the same thing.
Thank you. Any other trustees have any questions? Thank you for being here, Marcia.
Thank you very much.
Okay, moving on to item 6 on our agenda, which is consideration of the agenda. Could I please have a motion that the agenda be approved as presented? Moved by trustee Dickinson, seconded by trustee Fox. All those in favor? Opposed? Carried unanimously. Moving on to 7, Secretary Treasurer's reports. 7.1, which is 2026-2027 annual budget bylaw, first and second reading. I will pass this over to you, Secretary Treasurer Isley.
Thank you, Chair. Before I start tonight, I did want to thank Assistant Secretary Treasurer Shin Chand and the finance team for all the work that they've done over the last number of months to get us to where we are at tonight. This has been one of the harder budgets that we've had to do since I've been here. The cost pressures that the province is facing has unfortunately caught up with Langley, and we've had to make some harder decisions than we have in the past. Did also want to mention that trustees have already seen this at the Finance Facilities meeting, and that we haven't made any changes since that presentation at the Finance and Facilities Committee. So just the legislative piece, school districts are required to submit an annual budget on or before June 30th of each fiscal year. It's required to be in the format defined by the minister, which currently is reporting not just our operating fund, but all funds that the district has. So our capital funds, our special purpose funds, and I'll be going through some of that tonight, but most of the focus is on the operating fund, as that's where our discretionary funds are, and we can get into that as we get into the presentation. This is the format that is required of us. These statements are the consolidations, so they are inclusive of all funding sources, and then the schedules are specific to the funding sources. The 2 schedules are the operating, the 3 schedules are special purpose, and 4 are our capital schedules. Just some high-level budget assumptions that we started the process with. Our enrollment, we still continue to grow and projected to grow another 429.753 FTE, bringing us just over 26,000. When you add ISP, we're over 27,000 students. ISP is projected to be flat at 970 students, which is quite a remarkable achievement, as most districts are seeing decline in their international student programs. And also the budget has 22.14 FTE for ISP in retained fees. So students that come for portions of the year and leave before the year on, we keep certain portions of that. That equal to 22.14 FTE, which last year or this current year, that is coming out of the budget, and will be looked at and amended if there's a similar funding that we keep. Benefits continue to be a major issue for districts. Increases have been in the high teens the last number of years for the dental and the extended health, putting a huge pressure on districts as those aren't funded by the ministry. They're costs that the district has to figure out how to fund on their own. CPP and EI are flat, and the group life didn't change, and WorkSafe rates decreased slightly for our district. That's not common across the sector. Our experience ratings are better than most districts, so our rates have slightly decreased. As usual, we have to find funding for teacher increments, so teachers that progress through their experience and time with the district, move up the grid. Those increases are also not funded by the ministry and are funds that we need to find as a district. I did want to make clear that there are no funding or costs in this budget for labor settlements, as the ministry has not yet announced funding for the 26-27 year for those. So we will put the costs and the funding in the amended budget process. That is a big concern for us. They did announce funding for teachers and exempt for this fiscal year, and we are about $400,000 short of what we think our costs are. So a little worried what that looks like for next year's funding, which would be this year plus next year. So we've added full year impact of late starts, and we've removed any one-time items, which you'll see as we go through tonight. So on the revenue side, and this is all funds, you can see kind of where the funds are. Total revenue is just over $422 million. The largest piece of that is our operating at just under $329 million. And the biggest funding source, obviously, is the ministry, which is $375 million of that $422 million. On the expense side of things, at the consolidated level, just over $427 million in total expenditures. Instruction being the largest piece of that at $359 million, and operating once again being the biggest component at $327 million. In your package and for the bylaw, which we hope to have first and second readings, the bylaw amount is just under $430 million for 26-27. Getting into our operating funds, and do have more detail on most of these items. You can see the revenue has changed by $6.7 million. I'll have separate slides for the first two. The leases and rentals, that's being driven by our growth in our childcare programs, as well as rental rates being increased and expanding in some of our schools. So that's where the $213,000 comes. Did want to point out that our main funding is a per pupil basis for our operating, and the rates have remained flat from current fiscal year to next year's budget. So there's been zero increase. And so normally there is funding for collective agreement increases, which this year will be coming in a special grant, which will hopefully be announced sometime in June, but we haven't seen those yet. Our preliminary estimates, like I mentioned, are up. The 400 plus students, that drives about $3.9 million in additional funding, and our unique student needs grows by $2.9 million. Those are the big changes. And the majority of our $6.9 million in our operating grant that we are expecting from the ministry for 26-27. Our tuition, not a lot changed. We removed, as mentioned, the 22.14 in retained fees for partial years, and then some of the other revenue has been reduced for our international program. On the operating side, have slides for all of these as well, but wanted to highlight, net change in expense of the $4.6 million, with the most that being added as salaries and benefits. You can see that being up to $7.8 million, but our service and supplies being down $3.2 million. The first one we'll go through is the changes in our teacher costs. So mentioned in assumptions that teacher increments are not funded and a cost. That's just over $1.8 million this year that we have to add to our budget that we need to find. Our average teacher cost savings. So this year, our average cost based on what we budgeted is lower by $1.2 million. That's usually driven by retirements being replaced by younger teachers. At some point, that trend's going to reverse, and we'll start seeing the average teacher cost start to climb, as well as the increment. We put in, when we did our divisions in just before spring break, we weren't at projection, so we put in a contingency of 10 divisions, assuming that those students will be arriving between then and September, and they continue to do so. We feel confident that we're heading in the right direction in our enrollment projections. Secondary, with the increase, they went up 8.28 FTE. Learning support services, added resource teachers, 1.74 FTE. Had to add back some late starts and vacancies that were taken out of the budget and amended and spent in other areas. Those have to be added back for this fiscal year, just over $1 million. And then ELL, 0.2 addition for assessment. And then learning ELL, a reduction of 3.3. That has to do with our language, just how we budget. So those will be added back as classroom enhancement, just because of how they're classified. So they're in our classroom enhancement fund and not in our operating fund, just because of how they progress through the steps. Some of the cuts that we've had to make, and we focused our cuts centrally where possibly, protecting the classroom at all costs. So there was a reduction in instructional services teachers of 4.2 FTE. Learning support was 1.0 FTE, and there was a reduction of a 0.4 career position, but that was funded by a one-time grant, so that was only a one-time cost. And we reduced the career ed teacher by 0.6 as well. On the principals and vice principal side, we did put in some funds for people to hopefully progress through the grids. So we put $62,000 for principals and some funds for the exempt that you'll see later. We did some supports for our admin out of one-time funds. So that has come out. We've done that the last number of years. And if there's surplus funds, that's another item that we'll look to potentially do again as one-time funds. We removed a district principal from learning support services that was vacant. And then we've added an Indigenous vice principal to the Indigenous targeted funds for this year, and that's a new position. Project Blackfeather, we'd funded that district position due to the cancellation of those funds. So that position has been removed. We have continued to fund Project Blackfeather and are hopeful that the federal funds will come back. They have been approved apparently, but no funding or commitment has been made to the municipalities or to the school district at this point in time. So those costs we've continued to carry as a district. On our educational assistants, we had a position that needed interpreters. That position or that individual is no longer in that position. So those two interpreters are no longer required. Every fall, when we have surplus amounts that schools carry forward, they make additions to educational assistant hours. So when we do the preliminary, those come out. Most likely a number of those will be added back when we do our amended budget once schools have their carry forward amounts. Some career ed hour adjustments done centrally here. We've added hours for early learning facilitators as we've expanded those programs, so they pay in the fees that are collected. We've put in a contingency at this point for education assistance of $372,000. Trustees will have seen that at finance facilities, that's $500,000 because the other portion of that is in our benefits. So the contingency is $500,000, but this is only the salary amount. So that was portrayed differently when we showed that to you at finance facilities. I just want to make that clear. We had some one-time funds that we used for 6-term SEAs that have been removed for the next school year. And then a couple changes in Indigenous education, just as well as moving some Project Blackfeather costs to community link funds and some full year impact of a late start of a youth care worker. On the support side, we had, similar to the admin support, we had put in support from surplus money for clerical. So that's another one that we will be looking at once we know where we finish this fiscal year. Schools, once again, some adjustments on support staff at school level and centrally. Salary recovery, we've been able to charge more maintenance labor to minor capital as they've been doing more work on some of our minor capital projects. And some minor changes of supervisors, some overtime. And then also the removal of a one-time coverage for a mat leave in the payroll department. The other professionals, similar to principals, we put 20,000 aside for hopefully being able to move them up their grids. We had a capital position that was doing some operating work. We've now moved that completely into the capital side, so those are fully paid by our capital projects. We had a business analyst position to work with Remedy. That was a one-time item for a 0.25, and then a couple changes with community school coordinators being moved to Community Link and one for a late start. On our substitutes, this is one that we've seen large changes in. In the amended budget, we added just over $2 million to our sub costs, and we continue to add here. We've added $1 million to our TTOC costs and almost 1.2 on our casual replacement, partially offset by the vacancies of 687,000. Those are always done when we do the amended budget. We always have vacancies throughout the year, but we put the actual amounts when we do the amended budget. So those come out always in our preliminary budget and then go back in their fall budget. The sub costs have increased over the last year fairly dramatically. On the supply side, continue to work on our ERP, our enterprise system that is our finance and HR system, converting that to a new, more modern system. We've seen some changes. It's positive on natural gas. It's gone down slightly, but that's been offset by propane garbage collection, and the water and sewer now is paid differently, and that has resulted in an increase to us, as well as increase in electric usage or electric rates. Pardon me. Instructional services has reduced $330,000 from their supply budgets. Learning support $467,000. We removed some Prodi funds of $289,000, which were done out of one-time funds for the year, and then also 1.9 million in things that we'd restricted from previous school year that we did during this school year. Schools have also removed from the supplies for their carry forward amounts and any late start savings that they've used for supplies. So some of that will come back when they have similar the startup of the new school year. On our local capital side, $1.7 million. These aren't changes, these are the total budgets for these items. $1.7 million, which is our fund for technology, which mainly goes to student technology and staff technology in classrooms. That has been reduced by $250,000 for next year as part of our cost cuts. some money there for the ERP system as mentioned and some software. And then $250,000 for the fleet upgrades. That has also been reduced by $250,000 from what it was this year. And is a potential for further cuts if necessary going forward. So all that being said, you can see there our total surplus deficit is currently in a deficit of just over $902,000, down substantially from the $7.9 million. But I'd like to point out that a lot of that 7.9 was accumulated surplus and one-time items that have now come out and been spent during this school year. To fund the $900,000, because schools are only allowed to have a deficit if they have the ability to fund from prior year surplus. So we are going to be taking $547,000 from the funds that we set up to balance future budgets. That amount was $800,000 last year, so we've been able to reduce that to $547,000. And then $354,000 from the funds to set up the ERP, which reduces that to zero at the end of the year. Special purpose funds, those are funds that have a defined purpose and have a liability to repay if not used for that or funded or used how they are funded. Let's apologize for the small font. The big change is in the classroom enhancement fund, and I'll address that separately. Most of the small ones are due to slight increases into the funds, or they're due, and the small decreases are carry forward amounts that were put in that weren't spent the previous year that go in our amended budget. Couple of them at the bottom. Project Blackfeather, like I mentioned, is no longer funded, so that's $548,000 of targeted funding that we no longer have access to. Learning support service, instructional services, pardon me, received a grant for our professional learning grant, and that was for a literacy screener, and so those was a one-time fund to do that. The National Food Program, the drop is the carry forward amount from the previous year that wasn't spent that we have to remove. And then the Swiss settlement workers in schools, that is funding that has been reduced and will continue to be reduced over the next 3 years as the federal government has reduced the grants across the country for those programs. The Classroom Enhancement Fund, what the ministry does is they fund the teachers at the same level as the current year, as well as the overhead rate, and then they don't fund anything for remedy until that's calculated in the fall. And then they change the funding for the teachers based on the need, but for districts and the remedy that is actually there. So this is just a holding place basically until we find out what happens in September for staffing and October for our remedy amount. And then we submit an application that we find out in December of what they actually will be funding for our classroom enhancement funds. So next steps tonight, hopefully we will get first and second reading of the 26-27 preliminary budget. June 2nd, we have Finance and Facilities Committee meeting where we'll be looking at the 3-year projection based on this budget, followed by budget open house. So everyone here and everyone watching is invited. There's usually cookies. So come on, get your cookie and ask your budget questions. Then the final reading of the budget is proposed for June 16th. At which time board would also have to have a motion on the restricted surpluses to be able to balance the proposed budget. So just a reminder, this is the amount for the budget bylaw that is in your package. And with that, I hand it back to you, Chair, and if there's any questions, I'd be happy to answer them.
Thank you. Trustees, did you have any questions? Trustee Neufeld and then Trustee Fox.
So with the $125,000 increase to the water and sewer, the way the township changed how it's paid, Way we can get them to, help us out a little bit, $125,000, makes a big difference in the end.
That would be lovely.
Trustee Fox?
Yeah, if I could ask through you to Secretary Treasurer, you mentioned about a $400,000 shortfall of funding for the collective agreement. Is that the past collective agreement that we have a shortfall? It sounded to me like we had done calculations, they had done calculations, and they said no to $400,000.
The shortfall I spoke of, the DCTF and teachers have come to an agreement back to July 1st of 2025. The districts are required to pay retro pay to teachers. They've also agreed to do retro pay for raises for exempt and admin back to the same date. So we've calculated what we feel that is. The ministry does their own calculations. They don't ask for ours. And then they basically fund the province and then they divvy that up. Some districts win, some districts lose. In conversations last week, most of the metro districts have lost. Similar range to what we have. And our estimate is just slightly less than 400,000 for this year for the retro pay that we weren't funded for.
So can I ask a follow-up? So is there no way of challenging that or in any way, shape or form through motion of this board or anything requesting a recalculation based upon our calculations? Because I would think that ours would relate to feet in the ground. Theirs may relate to other lesser significant criteria.
It never has been. This is a common occurrence when we get funding for collective agreements. Some districts lose, some districts win. It just seems more in the metro area have lost this time than usual. They basically calculate as they're doing the bargaining, and then they figure out how they divvy up that pool. So if the pool's not big enough, then the pool's not big enough.
Interesting way of financial stewardship. Okay.
Trustee Dickinson, and then we'll go to you, Vice Chair Wilson.
Feel my face saying what I don't know how to articulate. Some districts win, some districts lose financing. That just doesn't seem fiscally responsible. And I know it's not us, but I'm gonna just, I'm not sure what we can do about it. I'm gonna have to think on that and maybe bring a motion forward to the next meeting. I will say that I'm disappointed and frustrated that the province is not providing the funds necessary for school districts to operate at optimal levels. This includes building new schools as well as funding operating budgets based on the needs of the district. I know making cuts is really hard for staff, and I know Cuts Essential is the most logical place to start. Nevertheless, it doesn't take the sting out of losing some of the amazing programs that we have. I really hope that in the coming years, the province prioritizes investing in public education, and that we can look forward to reinstating some of the positions in the coming years.
Thank you, Vice Chair Wilson.
I echo those sentiments. Really disappointed in the province. It seems like it's constantly do more with less funding model in education, and it gets very frustrating year in, year out. I'm really saddened with the things I've seen that we are, looking like we're needing to cut or that there are potential cuts. The teacher mentorship program being one of them. I know that really sets Langley apart. it's an asset for attracting teachers when they're first coming out of school. Sometimes when we're seeing things in finance and facilities too, like they aren't broken down super granularly and more just instructional services or positions or programs. And so it's not until we really start getting feedback and looking into things that we see the impact that these things have. But I am hopeful that given there's still some opportunities for budget feedback, and I hope conversations are going to happen with the different partner groups, that maybe there will be ways to try to mitigate some of the losses. I also had a question about the different slides. One had hourly adjustments for education assistants and another one had hourly adjustments for support staff. Are we cutting hours to those people, or does that exactly mean?
Yes. I forgot. So schools, when they get their surplus money, because they're allowed to carry over, sometimes they add hours to their amended budgets. And then they don't have their surplus the following year, so they have to reduce those hours. So a lot of those get added back once they get the surplus amount for this school year.
Okay. So that's nothing to do with LIF money then?
No, lift money is separate. The lift money continues to go down on an individual basis because the raises keep eating up a bigger portion of it, but and the funding hasn't kept up with that. So that always continues to go to the support staff.
Okay, so what I'm hearing is that perhaps when their funds come or their budget is done, at individual schools, those hours might not be cut.
They may come back. Yeah, those are usually added throughout the year.
And then the removed 6-term SEAs, are those just district positions or?
Yes, thank you, Linda.
Yeah, sad that this is the budget we're working with. Hopefully it can be done before our third reading. And we'll have some good discussions at finance and facilities coming up. Thanks.
Thank you. Any other trustees have any questions? No? Okay, so this evening, if trustees agree, we have two recommended motions for first and second reading of the budget bylaw. So could I please have a mover that the school district number 35 Langley annual budget bylaw for fiscal year 2026-27 in the amount of $429,622,056 be given first reading. Moved by trustee Dickinson, seconded by trustee Ward. Any discussion on the motion? See no discussion. All those in favor? Any opposed? Carried unanimously. Could I please have a mover that the school district number 35 Langley annual budget bylaw for fiscal year 2026-27 in the amount of $429,622,056 be given second reading. Moved by trustee Dickinson, seconded by trustee Fox. Any discussion on the motion? Seeing no discussion, all those in favor? Opposed? Carried unanimously. Thank you. Great, moving on to 7.2, trustee election bylaw. Can't believe we're already here. This is going quickly. I will pass it back to you, Secretary Treasurer Isley.
Thank you, Chair. As elections are coming up, districts are required to have an election bylaw, and if there are changes that are required, they have to be updated by August. So there were some changes that were made in the election process that do require changes. We're fairly lucky as our elections are run by the municipality and the city. So they don't impact us as much as they do districts that have to run their own elections. The main change in our bylaw is that we are required now to have on our website candidate nomination documents and the campaign financial disclosure statements. There is some redaction that has to happen with those. I have talked with Township. They post these things and are willing to let us just have a redirect to theirs, and I plan on having a similar conversation with the city. So it's not a huge undertaking, but that's the main change in the election bylaw that is before you tonight.
Thank you, trustees. Do you have any questions? Okay. Seeing no questions, could I please have a mover that the school district number 35 Langley trustee election bylaw number 2026-01 be given first reading? Moved by trustee Ward, seconded by Vice Chair Wilson. Any discussion on the motion? Seeing no discussion, all those in favor? Any opposed? Carried unanimously. Could I please have a mover that school district number 35 Langley trustee election bylaw number 2026-01 be given second reading? Moved by trustee Fox, seconded by trustee Dickinson. Any discussion in the motion? See no discussion. All those in favor? Any opposed? Carried unanimously. Could I please have a mover that the Board of Education of School District number 35 Langley approves having all three readings of the trustee election bylaw number 2026-01 at tonight's meeting? Moved by Vice Chair Wilson, seconded by trustee Ward. Any discussion on the motion? Seeing no discussion, all those in favor? Opposed? Carried unanimously. And could I please have a mover that the school district number 35 Langley trustee election bylaw number 2026-01 be given third reading, passed and adopted on this 26th day of May 2026? Moved by trustee Dickinson, seconded by trustee Fox. Any discussion on the motion? See no discussion. All those in favor? Any opposed? Carried unanimously. Thank you. Great. Moving on to number 8, superintendent's reports. First item is 8.1, National Accessibility Week. I will pass this over to Superintendent Gill.
Thank you, Chair Ashdown. Thank you for starting the meeting with the announcement around National Accessibility Week. And this evening, it's only fitting to have Director Paul Estretti here to present to us a little more information about the committee, who's on it, the accessibility plan, its high levels, and some conversations around National Accessibility Week. So I'll ask the Director to come up and present to us.
Thanks for this opportunity. Good evening, Chair, trustees, district leadership, and guests. It is my joy tonight to present the work of the Accessibility Committee on behalf of the committee itself and to celebrate National Accessibility Week. Coming up next week, May the 31st to June the 6th. Particularly tonight, I'm going to focus on a brief overview of the committee itself, our work and our priorities within the committee, and then our focus of National Accessibility Week next week. So a little bit about the Accessibility Committee. It is a requirement under the Accessible BC Act, and specifically within that act, we are required to have a committee, to have an accessibility plan, and to have a mechanism to collect feedback from our community. The committee itself is made up of 8 members, 6 of whom are members of persons living with diverse abilities. And I'm really proud that our committee itself has representation from a lot of our community who experience the disability and diverse ability community, specifically around mobility, the deaf of hard and hearing community, the vision community, the disability community itself, and we have parent and student voice. The only members on the committee who do not have lived experiences are myself and my co-chair, Kathy Gracie. Our goal within the accessibility plan, which we have developed from 2026 to 2029, is really quite simple. It is to inform, to educate, and to celebrate, and we have actions within each of those 3 domains. So within the domain of to inform, we are working to strengthen our accountability by identifying accessibility barriers We have members of our community, our associated professionals, our facilities, our leadership teams who regularly identify barriers and communicate those to us, and you'll see how we scaffold those out. To educate, we look to continue our education and awareness within our community to prevent barriers and to build shared responsibility, particularly by recognizing that many barriers are created or sustained by knowledge gaps, assumptions, and shared misunderstandings. And lastly, to celebrate and inspire accessibility through recognition and storytelling, and that is our work of the National Accessibility Week itself. So leaning into the work that we have done this year, the plan that we've developed for National Accessibility Week really incorporates the 3 elements of our accessibility plan: to inform, to educate, and to celebrate, while also leaning into the work of the district this year around our universally designed learning. And specifically, you'll see that we have incorporated the 3 elements of a clear learning target, choice through both the process and a product choice board, and incorporating a variety of accessibility tools within the choice board itself. Broad overview, our target for National Accessibility Week is so that learners can learn about inclusivity and accessibility by exploring experiences, by identifying barriers, or by creating solutions for equitable access. And for next week, we have provided each school with a choice board that has 7 choices. And I'll talk a little bit about each of those choices with you. So this is the example of the choice. This is the choice board that we provided to schools, and the 7 choices really do lend themselves to each of the opportunities to explore experiences, barriers, and inclusivity. Choice 1 is Makers Making Change, and if you've ever visited the website, there are people who are living with disabilities who are looking for makers to provide assistive technology to themselves. So if you have a 3D printer, you yourself can be a maker making change. Another opportunity, choice 2, is the One Abilities game. And really this is about inclusivity in sports. And it is, it's a One Abilities game provides you the opportunity to see what inclusive sports looks like by going there. It's actually happening last week. Or providing or leaning into the PE lessons that they have developed. So if you're a PE teacher, you can download inclusive lessons from them, incorporate them into your week. The next one is about accessibility lessons. And so we have developed lessons at the primary, intermediate, and secondary level around inclusivity, barriers, and diverse abilities. And so at least schools, teachers can access those lessons and bring them forward next week or anytime that they choose to. Choices number 3 or 4 and 5 are really around accessibility reviews and audits. And so they're through BC Case, there is a classroom accessibility review that a teacher may do within their own classroom to identify accessibility barriers that exist within their classroom. Or a school might lend themselves to doing a whole accessibility audit, working with a member of our accessibility committee to identify barriers that exist for their students. Choice number 6 is around guest speakers, and so we have made available the accessibility committee themselves to go into schools to have assemblies with some of our schools and our classrooms, as well as the Rick Hansen Foundation has a plethora of community ambassadors with lived experience that are available to come into schools. And the last one is around accessibility hubs, and this really leans into student voice at the middle and secondary level as students identify accessible barriers and ask for our staff to remove or support their ability to access their learning anytime and any place. Lastly, the work of the Accessibility Committee is really to celebrate, and this is the part that brings me joy. And so we're proud to celebrate. Last year we celebrated the student lens and the work of our associated professionals and administrators and teachers to provide accessibilities to students through Student Story. This year, we are celebrating the work of our facilities team in removing barriers and through their work that they have done over the last 2 to 3 years. And so I'm going to hope that this works. Next one is, so it looks like us going from a list of identified accessibility barriers where we prioritize projects that happen through the course of the school district. Yes, we'd like to get to all of them at one time, but it's not possible. So we do prioritize them based on the users that are within buildings. And we take that list and it moves into action. And so it is my pleasure tonight to share the actions that you're about to see. Last year, we installed 26 bucket swings so that every elementary school in the Langley School District has a bucket swing. So our students who have mobility issues can access and swing alongside their peers. It looks like the installation of communication boards. In this case, that is a representation of an AAC device in the form of a board so that students who are nonverbal or neurodiverse can play alongside their peers and say in their own way, I want to swing, or I like to play. It looks like accessible surfaces. And so getting to the playground itself is accessibility in the case of Alice Brown, or actually navigating the playground itself by a rubberized surface or wood chip surface, depending on the equipment that is actually in that particular playground. And so you will see rubberized surfaces and wood chip surfaces throughout our entire school district. It looks like pieces of equipment that provide accessibility for all of our students. So this is an example of what's called an all-around. People of my generation would call it a merry-go-round. And so students who are in a wheelchair drive onto it. It is at the same height as, there's no thresholds that they have to go over. And they can park within the merry-go-round. Students can sit on the blue seats that you see there. Students can be on the inside of the merry-go-round, and they can also be on the outside of the merry-go-round. This piece of equipment exists at a number of our elementary schools. It looks like a teeter-totter, not the same teeter-totter that you probably experienced if you're a Gen X, that's what I am, where we would fly each other off of it. But in this case, this is an accessible teeter-totter, and so you'll notice the black seats, they are actually rigged so that you can put a harness, and a student who needs to have support for skeletal mobility can harness into the seat. Students that do not need accessible needs can sit on a bench, and then students who would just like to get the teeter-totter really going back and forth can add on to the sides where they use their feet to rock the teeter-totter itself. Or it looks like an accessible seat. This is actually a rocker that exists at North Otter, where students who have sensory needs can rock back and forth. It also allows them to harness into the seat so that they, again, students who have some skeletal supports would be able to harness into that. This is an example of the social element of our accessible playgrounds, and you'll see that there are a variety of low and high sensory regulating elements within that playground itself. At middle school, it looks a little different. So at middle school, this is an example of the sports courts that have happened at HD Stafford, where students, the curb itself was removed, so students with accessibility could just simply enter into that space, and that they could play alongside their peers in a variety of accessible sports. Some of the not so glamorous elements of accessibility look like washrooms. And so this is an example of Betty Gilbert Middle School, where we've taken a medical room and we've divided that medical room in half. And the footprint is half medical room, and the second part is an accessible washroom. Elements that include there, not so glamorous, turn radius of doors, where the plumbing is, where the sinks are, where the high-low change table might happen, and if we have a student with a lift, where track bars might go in the ceiling. And all those are the work of our facilities team as they install those. Proud to say that every middle school, or sorry, not every school across the Langley School District now has accessible doors at their front entrance. And that means like they push a button and they are into the building themselves. This is an example of an accessible door that was provided at Betty Gilbert Middle School, where the facilities installed a door from their complex classroom out directly to their sports court so that students in there could just simply wheel out and be involved in play with, alongside, and belong with their peers. Not so glamorous elements as well are ramps, and so it often looks like retrofitting access to portables, access to older buildings with a zigzag ramp. And the impetus for this particular story came from last year, where we had a student returning to school who had been in a significant accident with 2 broken legs in a wheelchair, and his classroom happened to be in a portable. And so within 2 days, the facilities came alongside, found a portable ramp that existed at Langley Secondary, uninstalled that portable ramp from Langley Secondary and installed it at RC Garnett so that this student could, upon return, be in the classroom with his peers, not move to a different classroom inside the building or excluded from where his class was outside the building, or moving the entire class within the building, which were some of our options. This story happened within 2 days of us knowing that the student was coming back and wanting them to be where they should be alongside their peers. And last part is the work of inside the building to provide sensory regulating moments for our students who need to learn to co-regulate and self-regulate. And so the facilities team has really come alongside the learning support team and our occupational therapists in providing sensory rooms. We have 2 often in most schools, an upregulate and a downregulate. So downregulate, calm, you might be working on a puzzle, you might be in a chair. Upregulate, you might be doing big movements with a medicine ball or a big ball, you might be in a swing. Often those rooms come with features like water or access to snacks, etc. And you know, it featured in this picture is plumbing that has to happen behind the scenes, right? So I just wanted to say kudos to our facilities team who really over the past few years have made accessibility happen within the school district. And I'm glad this part worked. The last part is a shout out to Joe Abshire and our communications team who will be celebrating through storytelling next week as we are in National Accessibility Week. We will be showcasing accessible playgrounds and what makes playgrounds accessible. A not so glamorous one story that really is important is paving. We have done a significant amount of paving projects over the course of the last few years within the Langley School District. That looks like accessible spaces close to front doors. It looks like the removal of curbs and the installation of what we call letdowns so that people with mobility or vision are not tripped up by a curb or have to get over that curb. And then they can access the school directly through an automatic door. And lastly, our work of installing sensory rooms across multiple elementary schools within this school district as we teach kids how to co-regulate and self-regulate. And so it is my job to celebrate and spread the joy of the Accessibility Committee and the work that happens behind the scenes to remove barriers for kids that might exist in all sorts of elements, physical, communications, attitudes, technology, etc. And so with that, any questions?
Thank you. Trustees, questions? Trustee Dickinson.
Not so much a question as a comment. Communication boards and accessible surfaces make me smile. I am so excited to see that we are moving in a way to make sure that there's inclusive equipment on playgrounds. I think that's something that far too long has been neglected across globally. It's an issue. So I'm so excited that's happening here. I'm going to be stealing some of those ideas from the choice board. What a fabulous document. I'm just looking at like a staff perspective. How awesome is that you kind of laid it out? And Vice Chair Wilson and I were like, ooh, we need 3D printers so we can start being makers, helping people. Like, that's amazing. So thank you so much for sharing that. And thank you to you and your team for all the work that you guys are doing on this committee to move our district forward. Thank you.
Any other trustees? Any questions? No? Okay, well, thank you very much for being here, and I always love hearing your presentations and what we're doing in the district, creating so much more inclusive environments than we have had in the past, and supporting our students and making them feel supported and included. So thank you.
My pleasure. Thanks.
Okay, trustees, can I please have a motion that the Board of Education receives the report on National Accessibility Week for information as presented, or a mover, that is. A move by trustee Dickinson, seconded by trustee Neufeld. Any discussion on the motion? Seeing no discussion, all those in favor? Any opposed? Carried unanimously. 8.2, transitions through the Langley School District. I will pass this back to you, Superintendent Gill.
Thank you, Chair. This evening we have Assistant Superintendents Lisa Lanchberry and Marcello Molino, along with the District Principal Charlene Redicott, here to present on transitions through Langley School District. As we know, there's many transitions for students in our schools, and it's important for us to recognize those and provide supports and opportunities for our students to be successful as they go through the school system. And I'll allow the team to present transitions.
Thank you, Superintendent Gill. It's an honor to be here this evening with District Principal Charlene Redicott and Assistant Superintendent Molino as we talk about transitions through Langley School District. And you notice that we don't talk about just transitions from Langley School District as a graduation, but through, because transitions really are about many moments in time, not one moment in time. So we're excited to share with you some of those early moments and some of those later on and exciting opportunities later on in the student's experience in the school system. And really, this is about every child. This is about exploring and honoring the gifts and the strengths of children and providing opportunities that they can flourish within the system so that they can learn more about themselves and their identity and be able to explore and be successful. It's about what these first people's principles of learning speak to. Superintendent Gill starts all of his superintendent's meetings really reflecting on this with our team and talking about how they apply to the work that we're doing. And here, learning involves patience and time. It's really important that we as educators acknowledge that every child is going to learn at a different rate, and it requires us to really see them as individuals. Learning is embedded in memory, history, and story requires us listening to the stories and honoring the stories of children and families, and also honoring the stories of all of our staff and ensuring that there's a connection between the work that is happening in schools and the students themselves as individuals. And learning involves recognizing the consequences of one's actions. All of the actions that are made by educators have a consequence, and it's our work to ensure that these actions are positive so that the consequences can be fruitful and successful for students. And today you're going to see us reference this metaphor of dropping a pebble into the water and creating ripples. And it's about, if we are to see a pebble, drop it into the water and create ripples, there's going to be a long-lasting impact and a multiple layered impact of if we do this, then we will do that. If we invite the first, the panel on the left and the panel in the middle are about Donna Gabriel Robbins and their oral storytelling evening. If we invite students to these events, they're going to be making connections and see what school is all about. Those two pictures about that oral storytelling event are for the current students at Donna Gabriel Robbins, the K-5 students. However, knowing who their students are coming into the school next year, they extend the invitation to their future students as well. So as soon as they know who their future students are, they invite them in. And it's their first experience just to play, to learn, to see what's available at the school. The two photos on the right are the transition visits from the Douglas Park students to HC Stafford. And again, making connections with the staff and the environment, and really learning about what a day would look like at their middle school. The top two photos there, that's the grade 6 STEAM experience for girls, which they come together outside their school, meet other teams of girls who are interested in scientific and problem solving experiments, and spend the day really focusing in on a problem and then celebrating how they've conquered that problem, and really excelling in their social emotional skills, with creating friendships, and academic and learning more about themselves as strengths, and seeing themselves in a possible career or later on experience. And the bottom two photos talk about the link experiences, moving from the middle schools on the slope to, you can see that's RE Mountain, where the grade 11s and 12s create some activities and opportunities for the grade 9s to come in and get to know each other and build community before they're beginning in the school year. And one final example here is the ECE dual credit program, where our grade 11s and 12s are offered an opportunity in the career program to get some early credits at the University of Fraser Valley, and then to end up using some of those early experiences in an early learning program, either in the district or in the community, and then a strong start into university coursework if that's the path they want to follow. It's about this. It's about inspiring all learners to reach their full potential to create a positive legacy for the future, which is reflected in our commitment stated in the framework for enhancing student learning, that we are committed to ensuring all learners have equitable access for transition through the collective work outlined in the strategic plan. It's about the 3 domains that exist in the action plans for learning across the district and aligned with the FESL, to have a whole child experience in career development, intellectual development, and human and social development. Again, focusing in on strengths and being able to, what we see here, successfully transition through the Langley schools with the understanding of personal strengths and skills so they can navigate meaningful future pathways and careers for themselves. But it's not about just that. It's about ensouling our schools. It's about creating compassionate and inclusive social and academic learning communities that provide access for every learner. It goes back to that every child matters, and it's our work to ensure all through their experience in school that their stories are being heard, that we're connecting with them. It's about dropping many pebbles, so they have many experiences throughout the system that are going to support them, and so that when they exit, they carry with them a confidence and a strength because they were able to have that experience in school. And we're in an exciting place in Langley. You've known about the growth over the past years, and this growth continues to happen. This year we have 10 schools where we have more than 80 Ks in our district in that one's individual school. And we're really excited about this, but we also know it's an opportunity to do some really purposeful work. So we brought all of the admin together from these 10 schools and talked about how can we be intentional about this first transition of students into kindergarten. And what was wonderful is we talked about the strategic planning around that and the operationalization of tools and strategies in order to ensure that they had connections at the early age or early stage. What really came through in that brainstorming meeting was we need to build connection and relationship on the very first days, the very first meeting, those conversations, those phone calls, those experiences. And that is what is most important, that we do this work. And it doesn't stop there. It continues through all the way through all the grades and beyond. So it's my pleasure and honor to welcome District Principal Redicop to share with you some examples of this early work at the earliest stages.
Well, thank you for having me this evening. I have the incredible privilege of working with an amazing group of early childhood educators in supporting all of the early years programming for all of the little ones in Langley. The goal of our early learning programming is really to support the successful transition into school for all of our children. Starting as young as babies, we begin supporting children as they prepare for and actually begin their school journey. We want to set each child up for success, and because each child is unique, there are a variety of opportunities to meet all of those different needs, and I'll tell you about a few of the things that we have in place this evening. This quote from the Early Learning Framework, which underlies all of our work in the early years, speaks to the important role that families play as a child's first and most important teacher. Our early years programming is really geared to building connections with families and introducing children to school in a supported and very child-centered way. So thinking of those pebbles that Lisa, Assistant Superintendent Leachbury, mentioned, dropping many experiences and connections into a child's preschool experience creates ripples that will set them up for success in school, all through their school journey, and that really is our goal. So from birth until that moment when children step into the kindergarten classroom for that very first time, through age-appropriate programming, our early childhood educators meet children where they are at. So beginning with babies attending Strong Start, our facilitators are developing relationships with little ones and helping them experience that school is a caring place. And the picture on the left is Sam Colley, one of our facilitators from Donna Gabriel Robbins, and just the amazing connections that are made from little ones that sometimes newborns that start attending Strong Start, and right from the start they feel that it's a place where they're loved. Through their toddler years, Strong Start programming grows with the child, and eventually just before preschool, in that year before children enter school, provides a gentle introduction into what it feels like to be part of a classroom, which we hope it feels welcoming and safe, and that each child will feel that this is a place where I belong. A couple of weeks ago, I was able to spend the afternoon at Douglas Park just before preschool, and I spent some time with this little one that's in the picture on the right. And a few days later, I got to see her again as I attended the Blacklock Welcome to K event, and I got to witness firsthand the confidence that she showed entering school with that strong foundation that's been laid in her preschool years. And it was really special to see just how happy she was to be there and just how confident she felt. As a district, there are a number of outreach opportunities for families to connect with school staff and to begin that relationship with the school. Each year, Strong Start facilitators host a number of gatherings where all the programs across Langley come together in an outdoor space such as Christmas Tree Farm at Williams Park and an end-of-the-year picnic at City Park. The most recent gathering at Derby Reach is pictured on the slide, and this was a really special opportunity to build connections between family and the school, and opportunities for children and families to connect together while experiencing outdoor learning in a really beautiful setting, really honoring parents and families as those first teachers. It's another example of the school district coming alongside and supporting the process through the preschool years. Another example of a district outreach to families is Child Day. Child Day is planned together with our community partners with Inclusion Langley, Encompass, Métis Nation, and Langley Community Services. And we come together to plan this annual event, which is held on a Saturday, to make the event accessible to working families. And this year we hosted the event at Langley Secondary and had 800 registrants engage in various activities with their children, as well as 40 information booths highlighting a variety of services and supports for families and even some local authors. It was amazing to see all the little ones experiencing a high school as being a welcoming place for them. And in the past, we've held this event at Mountain Secondary, servicing the Willoughby region. And next year, we hope to move the event to a different region of Langley and just reach out to a different group of families. The past 2 years, we have hosted 2 virtual Welcome to Kindergarten meetings as another opportunity to connect with families. The first one is for all families and addresses information about the kindergarten registration process, kindergarten readiness, as well as some information about Swiss and ELL and learning support. The second meeting was specifically tailored for families that have children with diverse abilities. And the goal was really to provide additional touch points for families through these meetings and just to continue dropping those pebbles in to add and create those ripples of support. I've shared with you a few examples of how we are supporting transitions through the early years, but this focus on supported transitions exists for children all the way through the system, all the way through their school years. So I am going to pass this over and we'll continue just talking about different ways that children are supported as they move through their school years.
Thank you, District Principal Redikoff. And so you've heard how intentional the school district is in terms of welcoming students into Langley schools, ensuring that that initial transition is as positive as it can be. And you've also heard how the strategic plan, the FESL Action Plan for Learnings, really focus on the what of our work. At the very first superintendent's meeting of the year, this year, and the last 4 years, these 3 implementation goals have been put up by Superintendent Gill. And this is really about the how we do the work in the schools. And so very much we focus through effective professional learning communities. We focus on conversations that are student-centered and focus on student learning and how we make a difference. We focus on ensuring students feel welcome and safe by ensuring that staff are aware of and practice trauma-informed practices. We also ensure then that classrooms welcome all students and find access points for all students in terms of their learning through promoting universally designed instruction and assessment strategies, or UDL for short. And you can see, although the numbers are small, you can see the impact that these practices and other practices have had in the Langley School District. The very first date, 2019-2020, and the last date, 2024-2025, we see our 6-year completion, our 6-year graduation rates. And we see them going from 93 to 97% for all students. For Indigenous students, we see them moving from 74% to 87%. For students with IEPs, we see them moving from 75% to 86%. Again, impact. Now, each of those learning intentions, though, translate into actions, and not just in some schools where there's pockets of excellence, but the goal of the district is to ensure that these practices occur in all schools. And so what that looks like is PLC groups that discuss literacy, numeracy, and social emotional learning, and again, with students at the center of all of those conversations. It involves common assessments in all schools that provide the data that then inform interventions and intervention system. Once again, that focus on literacy and numeracy especially. It's about UKERU training for all staff so that all staff, again, are aware of best practices in working and welcoming all students to help them feel safe, to help them exhale when they walk into the building. And UDL practices to ensure that our classrooms are places where students, again, find access points no matter what their level is, because again, our classrooms are for all students. And these are just some of the way that those learning intentions are put into action. In the last 12 to 24 months as a district, while we've appreciated the fact that staff have worked so incredibly hard and purposefully to get from 93 to 95 to 97%, we know that there are still 3% of students that aren't transitioning successfully. And with that, in the last 12 to 24 months, here are some of the additional strategies that as a district we've adapted to ensure that our interventions meet the needs of our current students. And so in Langley and in fact across all of North America, attendance has become a major barrier, or lack of attendance, that is. And as a district, using research-informed practices and ensuring that we are aware of students who are attending and who aren't, and again, using those interventions to ensure students are attending better than they were. Enhanced grad plans, identifying students who might be struggling towards graduation and ensuring that there's a wraparound approach, a multifaceted approach that ensures that that student has all the supports they need for successful transition towards graduation. Belonging plans focus in on children, youth, and care to make sure that they feel like they're a part of their school community. Alternative and secondary, knowing that the research tells us clearly that students in high school who remain in their catchment schools have a much higher probability of graduation because of the connections they have. Here, the district has incorporated alternative programs at each of their secondary schools to support that. And along the way, continuing to work with staff in professional development to ensure that we are helping staff build their capacity when it comes to PLCs, when it comes to interventions, when it comes to literacy, numeracy, social emotional learning. And to support the work of staff, the district then has developed a Power BI program for staff or administrators to start, but eventually more staff, that provides the data we need that allows us to see trends before they're obvious to the experienced eye. And so we know then graduation matters. Graduation is something that we use as an important measurement, but we also know that graduation isn't really the main goal. It's an important a step in that pathway, but really we know it's about more than graduation, because really the real purpose is, as shown previously by Assistant Superintendent Lainsbury, the real purpose is about ensuring that students understand their personal strengths and skills so they can navigate meaningful future pathways and careers for themselves beyond graduation. And so we know then students will take many pathways beyond graduation, and as a district we work to support ways. And so you'll see in the photos programs on the left-hand side, upper left, you see the piping plumbing program at Langley Secondary. In the bottom left, you see the hairdressing program at Aldergrove Secondary. And on the right, you see the very first biomedical dual credit cohort, and that's the 2026 cohort. Beyond just dual credit, we also support students in terms of micro-credentials like forklift credentials. The next photo is students learning about grief and loss to allow them to transition and build their own skill sets around grief and loss. We see upper right, the aviation tour, and on the bottom right, we see first aid training, all experiences facilitated by the Langley School District. And as the school district grows in terms of numbers of students, we're also growing in terms of programs to serve those students and provide those transition opportunities beyond graduation. We see a business program through KPU is starting up in 2026, 2027, where students will take 4 courses in second semester of their grade 12 year. We are also working with School District 34 and UFV to create an Indigenous education teacher program, which is a dual credit pathway to teacher education for all students through an Indigenous lens. The provincial government has approved the funding. The program's being built as we speak, and will be ready to go for September 2027. And we also have a very unique experience that, again, started with a breakfast with KPU, and now it's called KPU Skills Connect. And starting next year, it's a very specific and targeted partnership with KPU and 2 of its closest schools, HD Stafford Middle and Langley Secondary. And what the goal is over the course of several years and at grades from grade 6 to 12 is through that partnership create moments of contact with KPU so that students see themselves going to post-secondary, see themselves walking the halls of KPU because it's something that's familiar to them. It's something that's just part of what they do and what they expect to do after graduation. And so again, Assistant Superintendent Langeberry talked about that pebble dropped in the pond and the multi-layered impacts that are had on students throughout the district. Every program assists students in their transitions. And as we grow as a district, we again grow in terms of the opportunities those students have, which in turn grows in terms of the impact on Langley students. And ultimately, maybe that's good enough, 97% graduation rate, but we know it's not. Our work isn't done. There are 3% of students who are not yet successfully transitioning to graduation, and we as a district are committed to ensuring that we're going to continue to adapt our interventions to meet the needs of those students, because every single child matters and needs to successfully transition to graduation. And again, our work is that. And so with that, I'm going to end with a similar slide to what you saw in the very opening slide. This is from the Aboriginal Achievement Awards. This is from this year's graduation. We see on the stage the Golden Eagle. The growing numbers of Golden Eagles for us is a manifestation of the growing numbers of students that our work in terms of providing successful transitions is working, and we continue to work with students to ensure that every single one of our students, as they transition to graduation and beyond, we want to make sure that they each soar. So with that, if you have any questions, we are pleased to answer.
Thank you. Trustees, do you have any questions? Comments? No? Great. Well, thank you very much for being here and for presenting this evening. And I'm always very encouraged when I see these numbers and the work that you all do in your team. It's I'm pretty proud of being part of Langley School District. So thank you for everything that you guys do. Okay, trustees, could I please then have a motion or that the Board of Education receives the report on transitions through the Langley School District for information as provided. Moved by Vice Chair Wilson and seconded by Trustee Dickinson. Any discussion on the motion? Seeing no discussion, all those in favor? Any opposed? Carried unanimously. Great, we're moving along to new business. We didn't have any new business added, and I don't believe there is any to add. So we'll move along to trustee work reports. Do trustees have anything they'd like to report on the last month? No? Okay. I have a couple of things I was just going to make a quick mention of. That I attended the SASE Awards, and I believe Trustee Rye, you were there as well, but we were at opposite sides of the room, so I didn't actually talk to you, but it was pretty incredible to watch as it is every year. They give out awards in 7 different categories: community service, youth leadership, sports leadership, leadership beyond adversity, cultural and diversity leadership, environmental leadership, and arts and culture leadership. And it's, if anybody doesn't know what SASE Awards is, it's sponsored by the 4 Rotary Clubs of Langley for youth age 15 to 21 living or studying in Langley. And I sat with Superintendent Gill that evening, and we were pretty proud because the district, all of the recipients were School District 35 recipients. So that was pretty neat to see. So pretty proud to be there that night and see them all get up on the stage. And also last night we had the district athletic celebration, and that was a pretty pretty cool evening as well. Just it's an opportunity to celebrate all of the teams and athletes' accomplishments over the last school year, I guess, or last 9 months. And there was 2 coaching awards handed out for service. So a 20-year coaching award was handed out to Coach Roland Calderon, and 30 years of coaching to Dan Renault. I hope I said their names right. And then the Jim Amon Memorial Difference Maker Award went to Kim Haber at ACSS. So, and I was joined by Trustee Ward, Trustee Dickinson, Trustee Fox, myself. Did I forget? No. Yeah. So anyways, it was a really nice evening, as it always is. So, and unfortunately I wasn't able to make the Aboriginal Achievement Awards, but I know the majority of trustees here did go, I believe. So, so I would regretted not being able to make it this year. Oh. You, Trustee Ray?
Yeah, I think Chair Ashton and myself, along with the staff, we attended the main event this year. This is my 4th consecutive year attending it, not because I'm a school board trustee, because the cause is very close to my heart. The money that they raised, I believe they raised this year 70,000, and all the money that raised goes to the assessments for psychological assessments for kids with on the spectrum. I know for myself, my son, when he was diagnosed, he was 5 years old. At that time, his elementary school had his reports to go by. But I know when he made such big leaps and hit so many milestones in his plans, when he went into grade 8, I really, really pushed to get this assessment done, because I was just like, he's not that same person. Luckily, his education plans and the resource teachers went and spoke with the teachers and transitioned him well. But then he finally got his assessment when he was in grade 11. But I was hoping that he would get it in grade 8. So it's a great cause, and I'm really happy that the community went and supported it. And I'll be attending it every year. So yeah, I just think about that one.
Thank you,
Good
Trustee
job.
Rai. I completely forgot to
Yeah,
talk about that as well, and it's a great event. All right, so we're moving on to question period. Question period is provided at board meetings. Purpose is to ensure that those present in the audience have an opportunity to obtain clarification concerning business conducted during that meeting. Priority will be given to responding to 1 question per person before considering further questions from any individual. The following will help the public develop questions for question period at a board meeting that is keeping with the goal of a respectful and focused meeting. Questions need to be directed to the chair and not to staff, need to be related directly to the topic on the agenda, need to be succinct, focused, and not be a statement, may not be asked that are related to personnel or directed to an individual trustee, may not be asked or related to contract negotiations, and the questioner shall provide their name so that it can be reflected in the minutes. All of the above that I just mentioned are directions provided for in board policy number 7, board operations. The chair may answer, may defer to staff, or indicate a question may not be in keeping with the above guidelines. The board appreciates public's interest and wants to ensure a professional meeting is conducted with question period focused on providing guests with the clarification they seek. Trustees also welcome questions from members of the public. Apart from question period, and our contact information is available on the school district website. I'm sorry for my big long, but I have to say it. So are there any questions? Hey, Tisha.
PAC VP1, Chair Ashdown, regarding the 2026-2027 budget. Many parents are increasingly concerned about the impact of the ministry's planned reductions on level 2 and level 3 inclusive education funding in March 2027. May the supports and students with autism and other complex needs are upcoming years. Has SD 35 made any budgetary considerations and contingency plans to help ensure that continued staffing and educational supports and services for these students?
Start with you. Maybe I'll pass over to you, Secretary Treasurer. I do that to you guys all the time.
spend too much
Treasurer
time
Isley.
together. So.
Sorry, okay.
The district already spends more than we receive in level 1, 2, and 3 funding. We supplement that by about 40% out of the rest of our per student funds. We do have a contingency of $500,000 of salary and benefits that we've included in the preliminary budget for 26-27.
Yeah, and the Secretary Treasurer indicated this in his presentation as well, that our goal is to ensure whatever impact that budget cuts have, the last place we want to cut is in the classroom. So at some point it may get to there, but we're not there yet.
So at this point, you don't understand, you don't know what the impact is for the cuts in 2027 to March 27, how that would affect the budget then would be a part B to that question.
So there are no cuts to our funding. My understanding is there are cuts to parents' funding. As of yet.
Not to the district.
There's been no communication from the ministry that our funding will be cut for that.
Okay, thank you. I have another question. The concerns regarding the unrelated $400,000 shortfall linked to the collective agreement. How is SD 35 planning to mitigate these type of budget pressures and safeguards in place to ensure that a district doesn't find itself similar to a situation as Burnaby School District?
Burnaby School District is not a funding issue. That was my understanding and interpretation and guidance from BCPC on contract language. That was the result of a grievance. So that is a very unique situation. As far as protecting us from underfunding on collective agreements, there's not a lot the district can do to be proactive because we don't, like, we found out a week and a half ago what our funding is for this year. It's middle of May.
Yeah, we were going to talk at last meeting about questions that don't get answered at the public board meeting when people come to the podium and make a question. Oh, did we do that?
I believe we did talk about it, did we not, at the end? At the
Sorry,
end of the meeting? That's
Then-
okay, but we can say it again, though.
just that they were
yeah.
going to come to the website, I believe. So if people are looking for those and they don't hear the answer when they're here and they think, oh, I wish I knew what they're going to get back to the person with, you can find that on the website. Sorry if we already went over that. You never say it too much.
It's all good. It's a good reminder. Okay, any other questions? All right. Seeing no other hands, we're good. I will ask please for a motion to adjourn the meeting at 8:47 p.m. Trustee Ward, seconded by Trustee Dickinson. All those in favor? Any opposed? Carried unanimously. Thank you. Have a good night, everyone.